I was 17 when my mom remarried this guy, Vincent, who had 2 kids from his previous marriage. Twin girls, aged 9. I'd been saving for college since I was 13. Every birthday check from relatives, every summer job at the hardware store, every penny I could scrape together went into my fund. My dad died when I was 6 and left me $45,000 in life insurance specifically for school. Over the years, I'd added another $12,000 myself. Mom was the custodian on the account until I turned 18. That was in 2 months. The twins, Sophia and Isabella, were spoiled from day one. Vincent bought them everything they pointed at. New iPads for their birthdays, weekly riding lessons at the fancy stable across town, closets full of designer clothes that they'd wear once and forget about. Mom jumped right in immediately, saying they needed to feel welcomed in our family. She started buying them stuff with her money too, which was fine, her choice. But then she'd make these comments about how expensive it was raising real siblings, how lucky I was to only worry about myself. I'd been an only child my entire life, but suddenly Mom acted like I'd never been her kid at all. The twins called her mom within the first week. She cried happy tears, saying she'd always wanted daughters. When I asked what I was, she laughed and said I was practically an adult anyway. Should be happy for her. She started introducing them as her girls and me as Vincent's stepson to strangers at the grocery store. People would correct her, confused, and she'd wave them off saying she got mixed up with all these kids now. 3 weeks before my 18th birthday, I logged into my bank account to check the college fund balance. I was planning which schools to apply to, calculating what I could afford. The screen loaded. Zero. Completely empty. $57,000 gone. I refreshed the page 3 times thinking it was a glitch. Then I called the bank in a panic. The woman on the phone said the custodian had legally withdrawn everything 2 days ago. Mom. I found her in the dining room that evening, sitting with the twins, helping them with their homework, something she never did with me. I asked her where my college money was. She didn't even look up from Sophia's math worksheet. Said she'd used it for the girls' private school tuition and to set up trust funds for their futures. Said real daughters deserve real futures and I'd be fine with community college and loans like everyone else. Vincent was sitting at the head of the table. He backed her up immediately. Said I should be grateful they'd housed me this long. That family shares resources. The twins actually started giggling. Isabella said now they could afford that summer trip to France they'd been begging for. Sophia said maybe they'd get new horses too. Mom smiled at them and didn't say a word to correct any of it. I reminded her that was my dead father's money. Money he left specifically for my education. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and said my father would understand that living children matter more than old promises. That I was being selfish, hoarding family money when the twins had actual potential. She'd already spent it anyway. Private school deposits were non-refundable. The trust funds were in Vincent's name, legally protected. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that money, about Dad working overtime at the plant to make sure I'd have a future, about every birthday where I chose savings over the new sneakers I wanted. All of it gone to fund someone else's kids. Then I remembered something. My grandfather, Mom's dad, had been updating his will recently. He'd been having health issues and wanted everything in order. Grandpa had always planned to leave everything to Mom as his only child. About $380,000 in investments, plus his lake house upstate. Mom had already told Vincent they'd sell the lake house and retire early on that money. She'd been planning their future around it for months. What Mom didn't know was that Grandpa had called me 3 weeks ago, said he wanted to add me to his will directly, make sure I got something for college since Dad was gone. I drove to Grandpa's house the next morning before school, told him everything. How Mom stole my college fund, how she said it was for her real daughters, how I didn't matter anymore. Grandpa's hands shook as I showed him the bank statements on my phone. He asked me to forward him screenshots of everything. Then he called his lawyer right there in his kitchen. I sat at his table drinking orange juice while he changed his entire will over the phone. Mom got nothing, not a single penny. Everything went to me. The house, the investments, the car collection in his garage, all of it. Grandpa lived another 14 months. When he passed, Mom showed up to the will reading in a black dress she'd bought specifically for the occasion, already counting her inheritance in her head. The lawyer opened the folder and read it out loud in his flat, professional voice. The entire estate goes to the grandson with the condition that none of it can ever be shared with the daughter. Mom lunged across the table at me while Vincent had to physically drag her back toward the door.